the added incentive to Russians to intervene is likely supercharged in this election because of the way the politics in the United States play out around support to Ukraine. So you have the possibility of the Russians being incentivized to actually intervene in a way that would help Republicans who would be adverse to additional Ukraine aid and to hinder the prospects of Democrats.
Yes, that is former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, who is a disgraced former government official who abused his power for the left to attack President Trump and then was hired by CNN, as you might expect. The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. Everybody run for cover. They want to help the Republicans. Russian collusion. The only Russian collusion is the left-wing Democrat Party, which has elevated the importance, the stature, the standing of Russia, Putin's Russia, beyond Putin's wildest dreams, I'm quite sure. And, of course, Hillary Clinton's phony dossier, which was just a slimy, sleazy packet of opposition research that was misrepresented to the American people, misrepresented to the FISA courts to get warrants to spy on the political enemies of the Democrat Party, that is the Trump campaign, and a Naval Academy grad here and a, former Eagle Scout there. And those are the bad guys because, American values must be destroyed, and the left is here to destroy them. I want to get to the telephones shortly, Michael, and I also, there are so many crazy things. Let's just get to one Joe Biden-Israel thing here. Because also CNN Wednesday, Joe Biden, talking about how civilians have been killed as a result of war, which happens particularly when you hide all of your weapons and your terrorist leadership among civilian populations and in hospitals and in schools, and you have tunnels underneath civilian populations because you want civilians killed, because you don't care about human life, you care about propaganda. And then the New York Times and CNN and ABC News provide you with that propaganda when you leave your own children out to be killed, as is your greatest hope, that your children are killed and become martyr. Martyr. All right, let's go to soundbite numero uno, as I say at DNC headquarters. Joe Biden on Wednesday on CNN.
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. And I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem.
But wait a minute, you've already cut off the shipment of thousands of munitions before they went into Rafah, and you say that the red line is going into Rafah, but you cut off the shipment before they went into Rafah, so you're obviously lying when you say that you will in future cut off shipments of weapons if they do something that they have not done, but you've already taken the action that you say you will take if they do. You see, this is why his kids are all screwed up, too, because he doubtless did this sort of thing to them when they were growing up, if he was around anywhere. That's pretty remarkable stuff. And it is one of the lies pointed out in the New York Post story, his 15 lies in 17-minute interview. But it just makes no sense on the face of it. And when Erin Burnett was interviewing him, if she had been a journalist instead of a fluffer, then perhaps she would have said, but Mr. President, you cut off the shipment of munitions and kept it a secret from Congress, and Congress authorized the money and the shipment, and that's Congress's role, and you kept it from Congress, deceived Congress, cut off the shipment in defiance of, the constitutional order of things and Congress's role in controlling what they call the purse strings, and only in this circumstance do we use the term purse strings, but never mind that. And Erin Burnett said, but the holding up the weapons, gosh.
So it's not over your red line yet?
Not yet, but we've held up the weapons.
But
we've held up the one shipment
But that makes no sense.
As an old shipment, it was been designed. We held that up.
It's an old shipment. It's not an old shipment. It hasn't been shipped yet. How old can it be? It was sitting at the dock of the bay, waiting to be shipped, and you stopped it before the red line was crossed, so the red line is meaningless, and you're a lying sack of Jewia. Now let's go to Joe Biden doing an interview in 2019. 2019. That's when Donald Trump was president of the United States, and there was no war in the Middle East because Joe Biden, the weak, spineless, gelatinous sister, wasn't in the White House, and the whole world didn't say, hey, look at the moron in the White House. Let's take Ukraine. Let's take Israel. Let's take the Suez Canal and control of the choke point of the Red Sea. It's Iran. It's the Houthi rebels in Yemen. It's Hamas and Iran. In Gaza, it's Hamas and Hezbollah and Lebanon. Never mind that. But here's Joe Biden talking to Judy Driftwood of PBS, the Panhandler Broadcasting System, in 2019, when he said very clearly and very articulately, he used to be much more articulate than he is now, not so long ago even, before his brain, maybe he's got a worm in his brain. It could be a Democrat pandemic. But in 2019, talking to Judy Driftwood at PBS, who was suckling on the taxpayer teat, saying it's incomprehensible that anyone would cut off military aid to Israel.
Some of the Democrats are saying that if, because of Israel's settlement policy, that they would look at cutting off military aid to Israel as a result of that.
That'd be a tragic mistake. I strongly oppose Israel's settlement policy on the West Bank. I've made that clear to Bibi when I was vice president. I made it crystal clear to the Israelis. But the idea that we would cut off military aid to an ally, our only true ally in the entire region, is absolutely preposterous. It's just beyond my comprehension anyone would do that.
Preposterous and beyond his comprehension that anybody would do that. And that's what he's done. The man is a moron, or a maroon, if you prefer. Yeah, those settlements in the West Bank, how dare you build townhomes and condominiums to live in peace? That's Joe Biden, that's your Democrat Party. And if we had a news media, Judy Driftwood would be out there pounding the table saying, but he said this 5 years ago about the very same thing, and now he's, it's honestly. Remember when Barack Obama said, as a Christian, he believes that marriage is between a man and a woman. And then 20 minutes later, when the fundraising from gay groups dried up, then he said, well, I don't really, not really a Christian. I mean, Jeremiah Wright is my anti-Semite pastor, and he's a racist, and he hates America. But never mind that. All right, now let's go to the telephones. Let us go to Mike calling from Annapolis, Maryland. Mike, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I wanted.
I wanted. And then you. Hey, your phone is giving us fits here, Michael.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm in a Faraday cage at work. Can you hear me better?
Yes, sir. Yes, I can.
Son emigrated to Israel in the late 90s, so since he was a hale and hearty male, he got swept by the IDF. And
we still had some of that skip out. Your son served in the IDF, in the Israeli Defense Force. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, now go ahead.
And in 2000, my daughter and I went over to attend his wedding, and he gave us a tour of the old city of Jerusalem, which was fascinating. And then I asked him a question. I said, what's it going to take for peace between Israel and Hamas? And he looked at me, and without blinking, he said, it'll end when everyone on one side is dead.
On one side or the other. It'll end when everyone on one side or the other is dead.
Right. And then he added, including the children.
Wow. Wow. And that was, he told you this 20 years ago, is that correct?
Summer of 2000.
Summer of 2000. Wow, that's 24 years ago. And your son serving in the IDF, giving you a tour of the Old City. My best girl and I toured the Old City a couple of years ago, stayed at the King David Hotel, wonderful place. An incredible experience touring all of Israel, most of Israel, and some place we couldn't go because we were told the Muslims would kill us for being there.
Yeah, the Temple Mount. Yeah. He told us the same thing.
Well, and when we were there, Bethlehem also, which is West Bank territory, and we were told there was a bad time to go to Bethlehem because we'd all be killed for not being Muslims, not being Arabs. But your son served. Now, you're a Jewish family, yes?
No. He became, I won't say he became Jew. My first wife, his mother.
Your phone's skipping out again. Your first wife, his mother was something, but we lost track of that. I got to tell. Listen, Mike, I thank you for the call. I'm sorry we're having problems with the connection to your phone. I don't know what sort of facility you're in there, but it's skipping in and out, making it pretty difficult. But we got the thrust of it. Your son serving in the IDF in the year 2000, and you went over there 24 years ago. And Mike asked his son, then an Israeli soldier, what will it take before there's peace between Hamas and Israel? And 24 years ago, the answer was when absolutely everyone, including the children on one side or the other, is dead. And here we are nearly a quarter century later. And let me tell you, the jihadis, they don't view a quarter of a century as being a long time. That's the blink of an eye. The Crusades are not over. From the Middle Ages. The Holy Crusades are not over when it comes to the jihadis, and that's true from Tehran to Beirut to Gaza. The Muslim Crusades are ongoing, and the infidels must die. That's certainly the Jews are first and most important, that they must massacre, and that's what Mike is talking about when Mike's son was talking about nearly 25 years ago. When will there be peace with Hamas? And that will happen when absolutely everyone on one side or the other is dead. And that continues to be the case with Hamas. Their charter has it that Israel must be exterminated from the river to the sea. And they're emboldened right now. One of those words, emboldened, but they are emboldened right now and feeling empowered, because in the United States of America, from coast to coast on college campuses, they have somehow, remarkably, with the help of the left on college campuses, indoctrinating and brainwashing young people by the millions, they have a generation of young Americans that are for wiping out Israel. When did that happen? Well, it happened when we weren't paying very close attention, but the left was paying close attention, and the left, with critical race theory and the Hamas are the victims, even though they're the genocidal, blood-drenched maniacs in this story. And the Jews who live in peace and build civilization wherever they go, they're the villains of the story, because the left is seeking to secure power in the 21st century and to take it away from civilized people. We're going to get to Sweden, the pro-jihad protest in Sweden, because we have a great update for you on that as well. Hey, here's a sobering headline. New estimates report that more than 1 million babies were killed by abortion in 2023, just last year, the highest number of abortions since 2012, more than a decade. But wait, I thought when Roe v. Wade was overturned that it would be outlawed. No, biggest number in more than a decade. We have to fight back against this evil. When they shout abortion, we shout life. And how do we do that? Well, we join hands with Preborn. Preborn is one of the largest organizations in the country that sponsors ultrasounds for clinics in the highest abortion areas. When a mother considering abortion sees her baby on an ultrasound, hears the heartbeat, sees it all on the screen, It doubles a baby's chance of living a long and happy life. Every day, Preborn helps to rescue 200 unborn baby lives, which is truly miraculous, of course, but by the time I finish this ad, 2 unborn babies will have been taken by this tragedy. $28 could be the difference between life and death. So please join me in this fight by sponsoring 1 or 2 or 3, or if you can swing it, 200 ultrasounds. All of your gifts are tax deductible, of course. To donate, dial pound 250. Dial pound 250 on your cell phone or your landline and say the keyword baby when you're prompted. That's pound 250. The keyword is baby, or visit preborn.com/plant. That's preborn.com/PLANTE. Yes, sir. Yeah, this is the world we live in. It's not perfect, but we must deal with it the way that it is and be realists, and we have to stand up for civilization. At least I need to stand up for civilization. I know that you need to stand up for civilization as well. It's good to be on the side of civilization and not on the side of murder and kidnapping and rape and genocide, as these chanting morons on American college campuses are giving sustenance to Hamas in Gaza. Yes. All right, great many stories to get to. I'm going to try to pack in as much as I can before we wrap up today on this Friday, before we start our great American weekend. Let's go to Eduardo, calling from Tampa, Florida. Eduardo, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yeah, Chris, thank you very much. Well, tomorrow's my birthday, 1-year anniversary next Wednesday of moving to Tampa from Chicago.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
I grew up in Chicago, and Tampa's a great place to be.
Yeah, let me bring up this thing. I don't know if you brought it up because I'm always in and out. BLM is suing Tides, Melissa Abdullah, and she's the one that's leading these college protests. I think that would be a nice person to check her phone book and see who she's been calling. What do you think, Chris?
The Black Lives Matter radical organization.
Yeah, they're getting upset, because money was diverted for these college protests. Different cause.
To go to the Palestinian thing. You know, I saw you on the board there, Eduardo, and I did a quick search. And Black Lives Matter, and I had to remind myself of this. In their charter, they called for getting rid of the state of Israel. Isn't that amazing? Why?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And they called for the end of the nuclear family. You know, mother, father, children, boy, and a girl. Black Lives Matter is an extremist, radical group, and they didn't save a single black life, but they did shake down billions of dollars. Now, in Sweden, which is a beautiful, wonderful country, visited a couple of times, they have a city called Malmo, M-A-L-M-O, Malmo. It's actually the third largest city in Sweden, and it is widely regarded as the most Muslim city in Sweden. Now, there is a contest going on in Europe right now, the Eurovision Song Contest. And ABC News has a headline, for Israel's contestant, the Eurovision Song Contest, you know, it's like one of these talent show things like so many TV shows and stuff, comes with tight security, boos, and cheers. BBC's headline, Eurovision, thousands protest against Israel's entry in Malmo. Now, why would thousands protest against an Israeli singer, a woman? Oh, it's because they're genocidal racists living in Sweden, and they're identifiable as Muslims, and the largest Muslim community in Malmo, the third largest city in Sweden. Time to build a wall and have mass deportations, I think. Save Sweden. Thousands of pro-Palestinian demonstrators gathered on Thursday in the Swedish city of Malmo to protest against Israel's participation in the Eurovision Song Contest. and the streets are teeming with thousands of people. There are videos. We have audio for you. And they've got Palestinian flags and the Hamas headdresses, the black and white headdresses and so on, the streets of Malmo, Sweden. Sounds like they're singing about making reservations at a restaurant. People with bullhorns should all be hit with a fire hose. Free, free Palestine. Free, free. Now, something worth noting here, that these Muslims from all over the Muslim, tyrannical, violent, criminal world have taken up residence in the same city in Malmo, Sweden. Save Sweden. I love diversity, and that means when I go to Sweden, I like it to be Swedish. And when I go to Paris, I like it to be Parisian. When I go to London, I like it to be English. But the Western world is being overrun by hostile armies of people, and Malmo, Sweden is being overrun. Now, that is pretty wild, and they're chanting in English. That's an important note. Why are they chanting in English in Malmo, Sweden? Isn't that crazy? My friend Mona in California has a daughter who is actually in Sweden. They're big globetrotters at the Eurovision contest in Sweden because, hey, it's something to do. It's a cool thing to do, right? But wait, because it gets better. And this is Western civilization under assault. And in England, where the number one name for boys born in England last year is Mohammed. 3 different spellings of Mohammed. You add all the 3 different spellings of Mohammed together, and the number one name is Mohammed for children born. That's not just London, I think. I think that's all of England. And then the Muslim leaders hostile to Western civilization say, we will conquer England by our birth rate. And they say this out loud. Say, because white Western Europeans in the United States and in Western Europe are not reproducing at an extraordinary rate. Birth rates are down, but Muslim birth rates in England are up. And the most frequent, the most common name of boys born in England is Mohammed, and certainly in Malmo, Sweden as well. But wait, it gets better, because that's not all there is to it. Greta Thunberg. You know Greta Thunberg, I call her Greta von Funberg because 90% of her fun is below the waterline. And she is, what is she? Swedish. She is a left-wing political activist who is a climate fanatic, a climate lunatic. We've been making fun of her for years. Like David Hogg was used by the left as a child prophet of doom on guns and gun violence. They've used Greta von Thunberg, who they say is on the spectrum of what we don't know. But Greta Thunberg joins pro-Palestine protests in Malmo, Sweden, ahead of the second semi-final. And here is Greta von Funberg, who is out there because now she's just a child activist. She's been turned into a fanatic by the left. And it doesn't matter what the cause is. It's just like the United States on college campuses, where it's Occupy Wall Street, then it's Black Lives Matter, now it's kill all the Jews and save the Islamic Jihad. Greta Thunberg in Malmo, Sweden yesterday.
I think they should be everywhere. And once again, young people are leading the way, showing the world how we should react to this.
She's going to die a slave if she's successful. You know, the Chinese are on the march in the 21st century. Putin is a commie trying to reconstitute the Soviet Union. The Islamists are on the march. And the United States is asleep at the switch because we have a comatose moron living in the White House and a Democrat Party that is not on our side, and they're not on the side of Western civilization. Again, left-wing environmental lunatics in London today were attacking the Magna Carta with a sledgehammer, a handheld sledgehammer, and it looked like something used to chisel stone, and they attacked the glass enclosure of the Magna Carta. They're after Western civilization. The Islamists would do that, and the left would do that. And then they glued themselves. They glued themselves, right? They glued themselves to the case of the Magna Carta, encasing the Magna Carta. Sky News, thousands of pro-Palestine protesters march in Malmo ahead of semi-final. Police estimated between 10,000 and 12,000 took part. Among those in the crowd was Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg.
How dare you?
Now, what does Palestine, there is no Palestine, have to do with climate? The answer is nothing. But Greta Thunberg was there with the mob of anti-Western Islamists yesterday.
Here to show that we think it is outrageous and inexcusable for Eurovision to let Israel participate while committing a genocide. Yes, it's a song contest where Israel, a country that is currently committing a genocide in Gaza, are allowed to compete.
Well, they're not committing a genocide in Gaza. They're not committing anything close to a genocide in Gaza, but the people that you're defending in Gaza are dedicated to perpetrating a genocide against the Jewish people. You're the genocidal moron. You're a useful idiot. She's now of the age of majority, right? She's over 18 years old, that is to say. So I assume the Democrats are sexually abusing her by now, too, because that's what they do. But this Jewish contestant, a young woman, is scheduled to, and she's competing already, and she has advanced through the first 2 rounds, I believe, in the singing competition. And 12,000 lunatics, Muslims, were out there in the streets of Malmo demanding that she not be allowed to compete in this singing competition because she is Jew. She is the Juden. And, Nazi Germany didn't die. It just went dormant. And it's back. And Greta Thunberg should be wearing an armband. Honestly, extraordinary times we're in.
This is all wrong.
Yeah, that's just amazing. Her name is Eden Golan. Eden Golan was taking part, the Israeli competitor, in the final dress rehearsal for the second Eurovision semifinals in the Malmo Arena when 12,000 Islamists showed up outside. During the march, which included families with young children, future suicide bombers for Sweden, and people with dogs and bicycles, smoke canisters in the colors of the Palestinian flag were set off, with some protesters carrying signs displaying images of Gaza civilians who have been injured. They might be pictures of Jews that were butchered and slaughtered and raped and kidnapped by the Islamists that you're defending, and they initiated this war, by the way. Also, banners done in the style of Eurovision with the word genocide on it. There is no genocide going on. There's a war going on. But the genocidal maniacs are the Arabs, the Muslims, and the supporters and defenders of the genocidal Muslims include Greta Thunberg, Greta von Thunberg. And she's a moron. And again, she flows seamlessly from climate, where she's an idiot and it is the government's going to make the weather better. You're a moron. And now we got to kill all the Jews to save the terrorists so they can murder Western civilization, which is their broader stated goal, just like in Tehran.
My opinions on this doesn't matter.
That's a singular plural disagreement right there. No, your opinions on this don't matter. It's not that they doesn't matter.
I don't want you to listen to me.
All right, now we've got an area of agreement, I think. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, the civilization is under assault, and Joe Biden is not up to the task. Just amazing times that we are in.
Build back better, blah, blah, blah. Green economy, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah is absolutely correct. Man, oh man, oh man. Also, the Democrats are moving the country toward a 4-day school week, and kids love it because they want to dumb down the population. A dumber population, a less well-educated population is better for the Democrat Party, so they're trying to go to a 4-day school week, and Pennsylvania law now permits a 4-day school week. I saw 900 school districts are going to a 4-day school week. Now, what do parents do about that? Because parents going to work, of course, depend on kids going to school. So now what do you do about that? The whole country would have to go to a 4-day work week. Then our economy would tank, and the Democrat Party would see all of this as being very positive, wouldn't we? Man, oh man. All right, let's go to let's take a phone call. It's Friday. I'm sorry all this serious stuff is going on, but let's go to Jim calling from Woodstock, Virginia. Jimmy, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Big Chris, man, I love your show.
Thank you, Jim.
Hey, I was called about this about the changing the 2 school names in Shenandoah County back to Stonewall Jackson and Ashby Lee. I'd like to warn all you people in the other counties, keep your eyes open. For years, we had these people were on the ballot for the school board, but there's only one person, so I never voted for them. I didn't check them because I didn't know who they were. Well, that's how the lefties got in. And all of a sudden in 2020, they just slammed us, and without any input hardly at all or anything, they just changed the names, and it cost like $300,000 to change all the names of the schools and stuff. And, well, they woke us up, though, and so we got it back, and now they changed them back. The only thing this time is it's going to cost the same amount to change them back, but they're not going to use the county money. We have to come up with private funds for it.
So
but I'm glad.
The 2 schools in question, Robert E. Lee, are they middle schools, high schools, and Robert E. Lee and a Stonewall Jackson?
Ashby Lee's a middle school, and Stonewall Jackson's a high school.
Okay, and this is Rappahannock County, you say?
No, this is Shenandoah County.
I apologize, Shenandoah County.
Yeah.
Beautiful place, wonderful place, and a great American place. And the left came along and they took over the school boards. And I got to tell you, Jim, that is among probably the lesser sins that they're perpetrating when they take over school boards in the United States of America. They're changing the names. They want to strip the name Abraham Lincoln and George Washington off of schools. They're desecrating the George Washington statue at George Washington University in Washington. The left is here, and they strip the names of Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson off the schools because they're burning our history to the ground, aren't they?
Oh, they sure are. And, all the lefties there in Northern Virginia, Maryland, D.C., don't come out here. There's a lot of hazards, and one of them is you might run into James Carville and get ugly to death.
And James Carville is out there, too, huh?
Yeah, I can't believe he lives here. Last summer, I was walking through the park, and I passed this guy, and I said, is that who I thought it was? And then here comes his old lady Mary walking about, keeping a respectful 6 paces behind him. And I said, I didn't know y'all still lived out here. She says, how can we leave this? I said, you're right. I won't go get smart with her because she's a nice person. But, man, you think he looks ugly on television? That man looks like death on a bicycle.
Mary Madeline and James Carville moved out of Old Town Alexandria, and they moved out to ruin you. I can't believe it. That's amazing. Now, the Washington Post angrily reported in the last hour, Virginia School Board restores Confederate leaders' names to 2 schools. The change comes 4 years after the schools had removed the names during the national racial reckoning. They love that word, reckoning, sparked by George Floyd's killing. George Floyd died of heart failure while resisting arrest because of all the methamphetamine and fentanyl in his system. And the police officer that arrested him was put in jail by the Democrats, and then a Democrat stabbed him 22 times in jail and nearly killed him. But the Virginia School Board in Shenandoah County voted 5-1 to call the schools Stonewall Jackson High School and Ashby Elementary School. 4 years after, under different leadership there, they changed the names to Mountain View High School and Honey Run Elementary School. Jim, thank you for calling in. Great story. These are amazing times we're in America. Save America, save Sweden, save the West.
My friend Jim Messina said, I said, Democrats need to quit bedwetting. My wife's already changed me to rubber sheets.
So much yet to get to. Stormy Daniels trolled for claiming she can speak with dead people. During Donald Trump's hush money trial, she can speak to dead people. She's what was that? The Sixth Sense was the name of the movie, I think. She can communicate with the dead. She talks to the other side.
I see dead people.
Stormy Daniels. That's good. And I love these. There are these things like, what, you were just in it for the money? Like we should be shocked that Stormy Daniels was just in it for the money? What do you think Stormy Daniels was in it for? They should have asked during the thing, how many men have you had sex with? I'm just curious. I'm going to put a number on that, a quantitative thing. Not that it matters. Okay, let's go to the top. We don't have a ton of time, but let's go to Marcus calling from Gainesville, Virginia. And Marcus, only got about a minute for you, but fire away.
Yeah, Chris, I'm glad to talk to you. Real quick, when I heard that Dwayne Eddy died last year, I was really saddened because I was a big fan. And the one thing I wanted to point out that he did a song called Soulja Boy, and it was also done by the Shirelles. I always thought that they were together because the guitarist that played for the Shirelles sounded exactly like Dwayne Eddy. So I just wanted to correct that because I sent you an email. I don't know who the guitarist was that played with Dwayne Eddy, but he sounded exactly like him. And that song was kind of a crossover because Dwayne Eddy was basically country and the Shirelles were rhythm and blues. So that was really big back there in the early 60s. That's all I wanted to tell you.
Soulja Boy. When the country was more patriotic, and the Democrats have really done away with that, haven't they? Yes, they have. Marcus, have a great American weekend. Have a wonderful time. I think it was supposed to be a little rainy around here this weekend, but we're going to have a big flyover on the mall tomorrow of military aircraft at noon. I think we're going to go down there for that because it'll be a patriotic moment, unless Biden and the Democrats wreck it in some way. Hey, remember, there's a lot to save, but we're going to have to save it.